In this next article from the Daily Mail, Hong Kong activists vow not to kowtow to Beijing and surrender, as 3, including Joshua Wong, are placed in custody after pleading guilty to organizing Democratic rally. Wong, 24, was prosecuted alongside fellow activists Ivan Lam and Agnes Chow. They were remanded in remained in custody and are likely to be sentenced to prison terms. And those prisons over there in China, not friendly. So when you go to prison, they're going to beat you and torture you. It's not going to be good. Especially the people out in the countryside are going to be a lot more brutal than the people in the big cities. Hong Kong was hit by 7 straight months of violent protest in 2019. If you don't remember these people, here they're on the thumbnail today. My heart goes out to these people. They will be remaining in my thoughts and my prayers. People of Hong Kong deserve to be free. The Chinese Nazi Party has been lying to people. They've been saying they're communists. I mean, people are really, 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 really naive and ignorant. They have no idea what communism really means. They don't know what National Socialism means. Let me just break it down to you what is going on here. China claims they're communist, but they definitely seem to be like Nazis. Chinese Communist Party killed about 60 million people. Mao Zedong was a mass murderer. They did this cultural Marxism thing where they said it wasn't Marxism that failed, it was the culture. And they had to eradicate the culture because they wouldn't share with people. And they were they were capitalist, and they were preventing them from having their Marxist fantasies. So they had to kill them and take their stuff, put them in concentration camps, just like Nazis. So the difference in between communism and capitalism is communism, there's no money, right? No money. And in capitalism, you can own private property and there's money. So in communism, they share things because they don't have money, and everybody's supposed to be equal to each other. Only, we're in the real world, and then it never really ends up turning out to be that way. So then what's the difference in between communism and National Socialism? Communism, you can't have money. National Socialism, you can have money, you can have private property, but the government owns all the businesses, right? They socialize the means of manufacturing, but you can run your business, but the government owns it. They can do whatever they want with it. They can take as much of the money as they want. That's exactly what China is. China has hundreds of millions of impoverished Chinese out in the countryside that they use for slave labor. And they have filthy, stinking rich Chinese in the big city with a very steep social hierarchy going from the peasant class to the richest of the rich, people who own private property. They own businesses. They have money. They take money in. This is the key. This is why they're National Socialists. They say, oh no, we're a hybrid of communism and capitalism. Which means what? National Socialism. And go on, I thought that was like anti-Semitism. Oh, you mean where they put the people in concentration camps and used them for slave labor, worked them to death. Right, that one. Chinese are as Nazi as it gets. There's no other the definition of National Socialism other than they have a very steep social hierarchy. They have a dictator up at the top. It's an authoritarian government. It's far right. They're xenophobic. They don't want Westerners going into the areas where they have minorities in China. They've got, in those areas, they have very, very, very xenophobic people. You want to talk about that? People throw out that word xenophobic, like if somebody doesn't support mass immigration, if you want to restrict the number of people, if you want to cut the number of immigrants coming in half, then they say you're like some far right person. But they've never seen real xenophobia. Go to China, where they got those Uyghur Muslims, as a white dude. Go walking around there and take pictures, bro. You'll end up in a jail. Seriously. They do not like foreigners there. They despise outside people. That's bad xenophobia. But then people just use that word slander around, like anybody who wants to ensure that white people remain the majority of people in America, like you're like some like far right neo-Nazi, but then they're like buying all this stuff from China saying like black trans lives matter, like this. But then you never hear these people say shit about Joshua Wong, Agnes Chow, and who is the other guy? Oops. Sorry about that. We went through his name. Say his name. Ivan Lam. They don't say shit about these people. They got phones built by Chinese slaves in their pocket. Probably got some backdoor chip from the CCP watching everything that you do. But they won't say anything. They'll riot and burn our streets down over some criminal that the police had to take out because they were a threat to the peace. Like they're high on drugs, like that tweaker heroin addict George Floyd that died with the 14 lethal doses of fentanyl in his system, 14 nanograms per milliliter, and then the 19 nanograms per milliliter of methamphetamines. That's 2 lethal doses. Dude's got enough drugs in him to kill 16 people, dude. And they just blame the cops. And then they're rioting, burning down minority-owned businesses, murdering Trump supporters because the people juicing it up turned out to be the Democrats, and then also Chinese quote-unquote Communist Party or the Chinese Nazi Party. They put advertisements out to people via Facebook that included police atrocity propaganda. And atrocity propaganda is where you show people images of police brutality, of victims' faces, like Breonna Taylor memorials or George Floyd memorials. It's called atrocity propaganda. It's where you show people atrocities of the enemy and you paint them out to be a boogeyman. And so after the George Floyd, or during the George Floyd race riots, the FBI did see a large amount of atrocity propaganda from Chinese quote-unquote Communist Party controlled companies, but you can't have money in communism. Money and communism are mutually exclusive. They're like, oh no, we got a trade zone in Hong Kong and Shenzhen. And initially they had them walled off, so all the commies are on one side. You got Shenzhen with money, Hong Kong with money. And then they were supposed to be autonomous. They're supposed to be its own country because communism and capitalism are supposed to be mutually exclusive of each other. But then what ends up happening is the Chinese Communist Party bosses Chinese quote unquote communist bosses, what they end up being is you got all these slaves out in the countryside, and you got these really corrupt Chinese quote unquote communist party bosses, and they control all the slaves. So if you want to build a product, then you got to deal with them because they're the ones that are going to determine whether or not the slaves are working for you. You want to get something built, you got to pay off the party boss. Because the party boss, if they don't like what you're doing, they're going to shut you down. So they might demand a payment from you, or if you want to get your product into China, they have to have your consent, their consent. You cannot just get your product on the Chinese markets without the consent of these insanely corrupt Chinese quote-unquote Communist Party bosses that want you to bribe them. So they take money in order to get them to do what normally you would just do in a business transaction in America. Instead, they got to get a cut. You got to give the money to them. And they're very petty and vindictive. And they're very quick to bring the hammer down on you. And they'll get all the wingnut Chinese nationalists around to come down on you. So you don't want to mess around with the Chinese Communist Party boss. This is problematic to have to deal with these people, because there's no way you can sit here and tell me these people are communist when they are taking money. It's not. It's mutually exclusive. But people are like, no, Nazis were like Germans. Right. Right. And they fought with who? Japanese. Where? In China. Right. So what you have to understand is that at the end of World War II, not all the bad guys were dead. A lot of the bad guys jumped over on the other side, where they continued their path of destruction where they took over China in the cultural de-evolution and all the other communist countries that they took over. It was just basically shifting blame. They did a bunch of atrocities under the Nazis, and so they just shifted sides, and then they just became the communist. But then they continued to do the same business model, throwing people in concentration camps, using them for slave labor, taking money from corrupt business deals all around the world, pocketing the money, and then telling all the slaves that they're communists. They don't have to give them any of the money. It's a scam. And these are the people that are in control of the Chinese Nazi Party in China. And these are the people who are trying to suppress democracy world round through this Chinese national security law. It's bunk as it gets. What this says is, if you encourage the people of Hong Kong to overthrow the dictator Winnie the Pooh, i.e. Xi Jinping, the one who looks like Winnie the Pooh and he's got really thin skin, if you bring up that he looks like Winnie the Pooh, you can't sell in China anymore. So like my business, I'm blacklisted. And this national security law is extraterritorial. If you break it in the US, you got a warrant out for your arrest in China. Like for me, right now, I'm saying that the people of Hong Kong are good people, that they're not communists, and they want to be free. They want to have democracy, so they need to overthrow the Chinese Nazi Party and bring democracy to Asia. And so for that means that my company is blacklisted in China, and that now I have a warrant out for my arrest for what I just said here in America, where we have free speech. This is absolutely insane. It's because these Chinese quote-unquote communists that are really functionally identical to Nazis, they have really thin skin. They're authoritarians. They can't take any sort of criticism. They can't. It threatens their ability to maintain their monopoly on this slave labor in China, and to maintain their power grip on the countries. And the way that they are losing power in China, because capitalism has taken root. They got people selling stuff on the side of the roads up in China. They just allow it. Not in Shenzhen, not like we're talking all over the place in China, just on the side of the road, people selling fruit stuff like you'd see in a capitalist country. And you're not supposed to have that in a communist country. You can't have money, but they have the yuan. YUN, how do you pronounce that? I don't know. They have a form of money. It's a currency. It's got Mao Zedong's picture on it, dude. Like, you can't have that shit. Communism does not have money. There's no money in communism. It doesn't happen. You can't have it. Only works in National Socialism. But people have just been completely clueless. We've been giving these people the Chinese Nazi Party. We've been giving them the keys to the kingdom. Letting them get all it, swoop up all this property in Vancouver, Canada. Letting them buy up all these businesses. And then we got them forcing us to manufacture there to get that slave labor from the Chinese Nazi Party, so that the corrupt business class, like the kinds of people that you find at Bohemian Grove, so that they can stay up in their top the ivory tower, so that they can control the world from their backroom deals where they rig elections and where they start wars. And you gotta wonder, how close are these Bohemian Grove people to China? What's their connection? We want to know. We want to know exactly what each and every single one of these people, especially China Joe Biden, the streaking White House groper, the dude who like can't keep his hands off of little kids and other people's girlfriends' boobs. That one, right? We need to know exactly how deep these people are up in this Bohemian Grove stuff, because Nixon and Reagan were both a member of that cult. And they do ritual human sacrifice there. They got an owl god. They do some crazy, weird stuff. Damn it. The video is not recording. No. Oh well, it's in the live stream. I gotta trim up the video. I hate it when that happens. Try to avoid post-production, but I forgot to click record. Oops. What else we got? Here in this next article from NPR, Hong Kong media mogul Jimmy Lai denied bail for alleged fraud. Poor Jimmy. Hong Kong media mogul Jimmy Lai was charged with fraud, denied bail Thursday, ensuing that one of the region's loudest pro-democracy voices will be behind bars until at least spring. On Thursday, a Hong Kong court, finding that he was a flight risk, ordered him to stay in custody until his next hearing, currently expected in April. Decision effectively sidelines one of the most prominent critics of the Hong Kong government and its backers in Beijing. As one of Hong Kong's wealthiest individuals and founder of a media company, Next Digital, he is perhaps best known for publishing Apple Daily, a popular tabloid that's often critical of the Chinese Nazi Party. Prosecutors say the septuagenarian executive and two senior colleagues at Next Digital were using their offices for purposes that were not allowed under their lease. Apple Daily reports to the court, finding Lai liable to commit further offenses, ordered him detained until at least the case resumes April 16th. It's not Lai's first or even second arrest this year. His highly visible efforts with Apple Daily, together with his full-throated backing of the pro-democracy protest and public attempts to enlist U.S. support, have frequently attracted the glare of government attentions. He and more than a dozen other activists were arrested last April for allegedly organizing and participating in unauthorized assemblies. And in August, Lai and several other individuals, including his two sons, were arrested under a controversial new national security law imposed just over a month earlier by Beijing. Now, that's that one that I was talking about here. Yeah, it's a pretty nasty one. It's definitely some Nazi stuff. So we have to shut down this Chinese Nazi Party. We cannot allow them to function anymore. They're a threat to the world security, for the future of democracy. They're the biggest threat, period, in this world. So the China needs us a lot more than we need them. We don't need China at all. There's plenty of other places where we can manufacture our goods at that will give us as good or better quality product for a somewhat similar price. And we just cannot allow the Chinese Nazi Party to suppress democracy world round, because they've been doing it here in the United States. I mean, there's accusations that they funded this election hacking, election fraud, and they're Nazi. Everything you see about China is functionally identical to Nazi. Just because they say they're communist does not mean that they're actually communists. They got money. They're obviously lying to you. Like, nah, we're not communists. We just got money. We have private property. We have a steep social hierarchy with people in concentration camps we're using for slave labor. We got a dictator. We're trying to be the world's #1 superpower. We're extremely competitive. We're just not national socialists. I ain't buying it. That ain't true. That spitting definition of National Socialism. Every single last little thing about National Socialism, China fits it. They're Nazis. So we got to shut them down. But anyways, that's it tonight for Real Simple News. It's getting too late, and I'm an old man now. So I can't just stay up all night and read these articles because I ain't getting paid. I ain't getting laid. So throw me a spade. Don't forget to like and subscribe down below. Throw me some comments if you liked it. If you thought it sucked, hit that dislike button. Tell me how stupid I am. Tell me why you're right. And don't forget to share this video on social media if you got value out of it. You want to see this channel grow. We are definitely fighting the algorithms. Best way you can help out right now is to subscribe at RSS Commentary on YouTube. Also, we're on Facebook, Parler, Twitter, soon to be Rumble. I haven't really put the videos up, but I will as soon as possible. Thank you very much for Thank you very much for tuning into Thank you very much for tuning into RSS Commentary on Saturday, December 15th. I'm your host, Cale McCullough. And again, as I say every time, thank you for tuning in. Farewell, sayonara, aloha, peace be with you, and Godspeed in your journeys, friend.